Hey guys, this is Caitlin Bod. I am a digital coach for the Southwest region, and I am going to be showing you how to access Clever. We will be looking at organizing our Clever homepages. We will look at adding links and apps to our page for as resources for our students, and then we will be looking at making them a little bit more accessible for all of our students by looking at specific icons that we can change so that they are visually appealing to students and, like I said, accessible to all. So let's get started. First, we're going to start by logging in using this Active Directory. If you haven't logged in yet today, you may need to log in using your DPS credentials. Otherwise, we'll get to this page. We'll select logging in as a teacher. Today, we are going to be looking at primarily our page that has our name on it. That is our page that is linked to Infinite Campus. It's the page that our students are linked to. The other pages here, just so you all know, are pages for this one is just for you. It's where you can add links, apps, PDFs that only you see, your students do not see. And then the other page here is a district page. It's where they add in all of their apps district wide. And so you can actually access those apps on your own page. So I never really even use this district page. So we're going to head over to our page that says shared with all students. This is our linked page to our students. When I click here, you're going to notice I don't have anything added to my Clever page quite yet. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a little bit of organization. We want to make sure that our picture is what we want. We want to make sure that our name is how we want it. We want to make sure we have categories, which we'll talk about in a moment. So let's start off by relabeling our page. I know that my kids don't call me CBOT, so I'm going to change it to what's going to be accessible to them. So this is Miss Bot's homeroom Clever page. I know that this is the class that my kids will be using it for. That means, other teachers may have a Clever page, so you want to make sure you label it so it's something distinct for you. You can definitely change the description here. Sometimes I just leave it or I delete it. You might want to add, like if you have a Bitmoji, you can change it to your personalized picture or, make it a funny picture that you can just say, go click on the owl. So yeah, we're going to start off just with that basic organization so that we have it accessible for our students. Now we're going to take a look at how we're going to organize our resources. So by organizing our resources in here, it keeps our students from having to kind of weed through all of the resources to find each one that you're going to want them to access. So we're going to use categories so that they organize into specific sections. So you'll notice that there's one category already added here. It's the newly added. I don't ever use newly added when I go into and when I add an app or a link, it sometimes puts it directly into a newly added category, which I'll show you how to move that out of in just a moment. But I'm actually going to change this category. And what I'm going to change this to is I know that one category in particular that my students are going to want to access is literacy. I'm going to have some literacy resources available for them underneath this category, but I know that I'm going to want to have several other categories. So I'm going to go down to this green add button down here. When I click on this, I'm going to open up a category. So here you'll notice we have a new category. I'm going to want to add a math category. That's going to be one that my students are going to access often. I'm going to add maybe another category that they might access multiple different types of curriculum. Like we will add a link in just a few that'll go under this one. So I'll label this extra practice. It'll be a place where they can practice multiple different types of curriculums or subject areas, not just specifically math or literacy. I might also want a category that's specific for like our everyday use. So something that I might put is everyday use here. Okay, so I will show you which app I'm going to add underneath that. It's something that my students will likely access every single day. That might be one that I want to keep at the top too, so that it's the most accessible for my students. So you'll notice here what we did is we started off our organization by creating our title that is more visual and for students to understand whose room they're in. We've got several categories included here that we can add resources to. Now what we're going to do is add those resources. So I'm going to start off by adding an app, and most of the apps that are on here will be found either in this search bar up here, which is just an extra step. So I'd advise you to come down to the add button, click on it, and we'll click on app. We are going to sign in or look up Seesaw. So this is a district-wide app that is imported into Clever, and you'll know it's district-wide because it's stamped with our district label here. So this is something that I will want to add, and this is actually one in which I expect that my students are going to be accessing every single day. So this is one of those ones that I'm going to actually put under this everyday use category. I'm going to add Seesaw. It automatically makes a new category to newly added because guess what? It was just newly added. Well, I don't want it under there because to me, all students are going to think is they're all newly added, right? So I'm actually going to edit this and I'm just going to move it to the category I want it into. I would like it under everyday use. That's something that we're going to use every day. So I moved it. Now this category is still here. So I know for a fact I'm never going to use that category. So I'm just going to click on the X, delete the category. So I've added an app. I've edited it by moving it into the category that I want it to be in. Seesaw's icon here looks exactly like it does, like it's presenting here. So I want to make sure to keep that icon so it's most visually appealing and like understanding for students. When they see that icon, they know immediately it's going to be Seesaw. So next we're going to see how to add a link. So it's not an app that's already in here. It's going to be a link that I'm going to find from the internet, a website or a resource that I want my students to use. One of the resources that I know I used a lot for extra practice was Kahoot. So I'm going to go to a new tab and I'm going to find the link that my students are going to want to use to get to our Kahoot page. So as we know, Kahoot.it leads us to where their game pin, where they need to put in their game pin to start the game or the activity. So I'm going to highlight this, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to bring it back to my Clever page. If you look on here, I'm going to go to the same place, I'm going to add, and I'm going to add a link. With that link, I'm going to paste it here. All right. I'm going to change it from untitled because we know it has a title and it is Kahoot. Okay. And then I'm not going to use it every day, so I'm actually going to put it under my extra practice category. That's where I'm going to be practicing my skills. That is where I'm going to use that as an extra practice spot. You will notice if you've never done Kahoot before, another great resource where you can have it as a whole group activity or small group activity or even individual. So that is a place for extra practice. Now, I like the Seesaw activity here, this app. I want to make sure that it's visually appealing and accessible to all my students. I'm personally a visual learner, so I know that right away, if my students are struggling to read, I know I can say, go find the purple K or go find the different colors that go with Kahoot. You'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. So I want to make sure I upload an icon that makes sense to them. I could use any of these, absolutely, but I'm going to do something that seems a little bit more accessible to my students. So I'm actually going to go to Kahoot icon in Google, and I'm going to access the Kahoot icon that I think is most accessible to my students. This is the exact display they see when they answer their questions in Kahoot. So I think this is pretty visually appealing to my students. So I'm actually going to save this image. I'm going to save it to my desktop so that when I go back to my Clever page, I can upload that link or that image, to my icons here, and you'll see that it is linked and it is actually highlighted with a blue outline. That means that is going to be used for the specific link. So I'm going to add this link, and you'll notice here that it went to extra practice. It's got the icon that's most visually appealing and easy for students to find. It has the label, and it's underneath the category that I want it to be under for them. All right, so this was just a brief overview of Clever. There are so many more resources and steps and tools that you can take through this one-stop shop spot for your students to be able to access all of the resources that they need throughout the day. So feel free to reach out to your digital coach if you have any further questions or need any further support with this program. And I hope that was a helpful tool to get you started.